4. The police, we've actually got a 1-year contract in place with the police. So the other 4 unions, we're still in the midst of negotiating them. I think we're pretty close on 2 of them. The other 2 have asked for mediation. We gave them a very good offer, and it was rejected. So we'll see where that ends up.
Brian, could you list who the 4 unions are?
Sure. So clerical, PTE, and then we have dispatch and public works.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
And which ones are in arbitration?
Mediation are in public works and the dispatch.
Did you say arbitration or mediation?
Mediation.
Mediation.
So another point worth mentioning is that the FY, as you're all aware, the FY22 budget was rejected by voters. So in that scenario, we've reverted back to the FY21 budget. So the alternate budget is what you're going to see in here for FY22. That's relevant because our increases, particularly salary increases, are going to reflect 2 years of increases, because contractually we're still obligated to give the FY22 salary increases, even though they're not reflected in the budget for FY22. So this year you're going to see FY22 and FY23 proposed increases for the individual line items for salary. So with that being said, this year we saw an increase from Terre of 217 roughly thousand. Our overall expenses, our operating expenses were up 230,000. CIP was up 148,000, and that was driven by the 156,000 that we will need for the revalve, the full revalve, which is the more extensive and more costly revalve, which is every 9 years. So the total expenditures are $595,299. On revenue, we had some increases in the assessed values, which provided some additional revenue, which was typical year, nothing crazy because we didn't have a reval, but a typical increase. And we're looking at some of the big impacts you'll see in general government. We had the impact fee, which is a one-time source of revenue. We usually get that every 5 to 7 years. We'll transfer that money from a restricted account. That was in the FY21 budget, and we used it in FY21, so it's no longer there. So that shows up as a hole in the budget as a reduction of 130. Other than that, nothing too crazy on the revenue side. Total revenue matches expenses of $595,299. With that being said, the proposed tax rate would be a 21-cent increase from 1853 to 1874. That increase represents the 216,000 that was passed to us from Charahoe, and that would equal that would have an impact of $63 on the average on a $300,000 house on the annual tax bill of $63, which is about 1.13% increase. So we're looking at a very modest increase this year, which is always good. Obviously, inflation has been highly talked about, something that we've had to keep an eye on. So we've tried to work that in where needed.
I think you'll probably get to it, but it's supposedly the new percentage is what, 76 versus 24, school expenses versus general government.
Correct.
Yeah, because right now, what is it, 74%?
76%.
Is that currently in this fiscal year?
In the current fiscal year is 77%. So FY22, 77%. of our revenue goes to education, 23 to the municipal
I
budget.
thought it was like 74.
It was
It was actually 77.
in FY 22, and the proposed budget, it's gonna be 76% and 24 to the municipal budget. So I think, that being said, I think we're gonna talk in depth about the departments, so we can address any individual questions when we get to the respective departments. So I think we could maybe start by going with Public Works first.
The,
Each 30,
Page 33.
33, 30.
If you
I
look-
would like to say in my years on the town council and also as a former member of the finance board when we had one, usually what happens is anytime that there's budget cuts in Hopkinton, usually the main sufferer of those is the Public Works Department. So I look forward to making a statement of supporting the Public Works Department and also, especially when we get some of these federal funds, so that people know that we believe in public works in this town. And that's all I want to say as we go through this budget.
Yeah, on the compensation and salary, I'm on page 34. Can you tell me what percent? Last time it was,
Yes, so what's in there is the most recent proposal that was made to Public Works, which again was rejected. They didn't have a contract. We didn't negotiate in FY 21 when their contract was up. So they basically got 0% that year. So we went back and we offered them a retroactive 1% in 21, 2% in 22, and 2% in 23. So that's what's represented here.
there's
So essentially, for
5%?
Public Works, you're seeing 3 years worth of salary increases. With the other departments, you'll see the 2 years.
Okay.
Brian, I got some if you want to go a little further.
Sure.
Yeah, just, with, DPW work, it's just about, it's pretty much any town around. It's kind of like, well, we're kind of, they're kind of in there, but they're kind of down towards the bottom. And the bottom line is you really can't put a price on safety. You don't have the money to make repairs on a truck. You got to use a spare that's a little bit older, might not be as worthy as a newer truck. That to me is a safety item. When I'm looking at vehicle maintenance on page 34, maintenance supplies, it just, for me, my background, 39 years in the automotive business, it just, does that cover, my question is, does that cover the basic necessities, fuel filters, oil filters, whatever it may be? Repairs and maintenance of vehicles, a lot of new stuff now. Now you've got anything after 2012 was DEF. Okay. A lot of facilities do not have the software, computer systems to do that. So truck goes down, engine light comes on, goes into a no start or slow. You got to send it out. You lose the truck for a week to 2 weeks. You got to send it out to vendor, or if it's under warranty. The bottom line is you lose the asset, right? Okay, it's gone for 2 weeks. So you're shifting back to a spare. I think I agree with Councilor Hurst. Maybe with some of this COVID money, we can buy them some of the software so the tech can go out there, hook up to the truck, tap, 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 go into it. And that, I know some of the software is very, very pricey, but it does seem like we have the same kind of vehicle, same frame, stuff like that. But I would just like to see them a bit squeeze up some more money for them, maintenance supplies, and definitely something repairs and maintenance vehicles. I also like to see if we can do something with some of the COVID money or maybe some of the other money we're getting, up the fleet a little bit, bring it up. I'm not sure what the statewide standard is for vehicles. I know the state turns over vehicles left and right. Maybe like I know how we talked about that last year. Maybe we can look into getting some of their stuff. They keep it for what, 2 or 3 years, Dave? State keeps their equipment for what, 2 or 3 years, then they sell it off. You know, I've been on the tail end of trying to keep stuff on the road and not having money at one time. But definitely like to see something with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't, for whatever reason, the public works fleet has been neglected for several years, and we've tried to make a conscious effort to start revamping their
Right.
fleet. And you know, when we do, my plan was after the budget process, when the council submits their budget, we could start maybe holding similar workshops on ARPA. So we would have a similar workshop like this with the council and myself and the finance director, and we could discuss. And I've worked very closely with the department heads and come up with projects, and the town planner especially, coming up with projects to propose to the council. And the public works fleet is high on that list.
Yeah, just, you know, Mother Nature hasn't been kind to
Yeah,
us the last couple
Absolutely.
of months. You know, you're gonna run into overtime, you're gonna run into equipment problems, you're gonna run into getting sand and salt, and that used to be that you had years ago. They would give that away. Now it comes at a premium. So just there's a lot goes into it, and you really need to pump some money into them.
Yeah, I wanted to know, last year, we said for tree trimming that we had 30,000 remaining funds from the original 72,000. And so under general road maintenance, I'm on page 34, number 5062. We said that we had 30,000 of the 72,000 left over. I think that's right. Yes. And I wanted to know, did we do anything or not?
So we still have 32,000 in there, but there's a couple projects that are potential liabilities to the town that are gonna be costly. So we'll probably go through a good portion of that. Oh, it was done. Okay, so yeah, there was some. Okay, so I was gonna ask Dave to speak to that. So yeah, there was a big project that came up in town that money was gonna be appropriated for. So I don't know what the total cost was, but it was gonna eat up a decent amount of that. Or maybe was five, all right, so maybe not a substantial amount of it, but 5 of the 32.
Okay, and you know that Patrick Kennedy said that National Grid was going to
Yeah.
do some
Yep.
extra tree trimming in the Hopkinton area, so.
Yeah, but
So
the,
But don't plan on that because they're in the process of getting sold.
yeah, in my experience, and Dave can speak to this, it's getting costly. You know, anytime you need tree work done, and there's a lot of it that's needed in town. So that
Mhm.
money could be spent tomorrow, but we're
No,
trying
no, no,
to
I just
use it
meant
for
National
emergency.
Grid should pay for that. part.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And we've tried, that's why that money's there in the first place, because we allocated a portion. I
Mhm.
forget what the total amount was. I want to say around 100 or 150,000 at one point for a CIP project to go tree trimming around
Mhm.
town and address that issue when there was like beetle issues. And we ended up getting a lot of that work done by National Grid.
Right,
So we were able to save some of the money that we allocated for it. So that's why we've kind of been using it for like emergency cases, because things do come up. You know, I thought there was another project too that you had mentioned that was gonna eat up a chunk of that. So, you know, like I said, if Dave could probably confirm that if we wanted to spend it tomorrow, we could, but
That's for sure. Yes.
Like I said, I didn't get a chance to talk to the town manager today in regards to a project that was scheduled for next week. They moved it up, which worked out well. My line item, 5062 is 1,500 for tree trimming, page 34.
yeah, I see
Mhm.
that.
As you can see right now, year to date, it's 0.
Mhm.
So typically what the department does is we wait toward the end of the budget cycle to target some of those problem, and I'll say trees, but take the S out. 1,500.
Yeah,
will
yeah,
I
no,
know.
that's, yeah, yeah.
I know.
One tree.
Yeah.
Sharon, you're familiar with tree removal. I think you had some removed from your properties. So like Brian said, when we target, and we've been waiting for the grid to do some of the stuff that they had said, Woodville Road, Target Roads, Tomaquag,
Mhm.
correct. So the monies will go, what's left in that restricted account, I think, is going to be unfortunately depleted rather quickly when we stop moving forward.
Well,
I think,
can you, like you said, you wanted to talk about ARPA after the budget process? Is tree trimming, can tree trimming be considered an ARPA project? Is that a kind of thing?
Yep.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, so I just want to make a case for the same thing. I mean, there's going to be lots of things as we go through here that are just going to make us kind of wander off, you know, and go, oh, we can get this. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff, like Brian said, and him and I have talked that, you know, we will be having workshops regarding this ARPA money. So that way we can really just kind of
That's good.
discuss it in the open, you know, and just talk about it. So that's where some of it is. So hopefully, again, I mean, this is kind of like a wrinkle in whatever, meaning like, this is only going to happen every year, you know, 3 or 4 years down the road, we're not going to be able to say that. We're going to have a workshop on how to spend money that we're getting. But we do need to be conscious, like Dave said, that I mean, $1,500, you know, even on a yearly basis, I mean, we probably would need to, you know, bump that up if we want to, you know.
The ARPA money that Brian asked me a couple of weeks ago to give him a prioritized wish list.
Sure.
And I'll call it that. And so we supplied it to him, and he's going to move forward with that with you guys
Yeah.
at the appropriate time.
Yeah, perfect.
So,
the National Grid, which I've been involved in, took an interest in, it's my understanding that they usually do the trees that are in the right of way. And I guess that even at times they do ones on private land. But I'll stand corrected on that. But mainly they do the ones that are in the right of way. And I think there was actually a discussion, and I'll stand corrected because I know you was at that meeting.
yes.
That usually there's a sentiment anyways. I either got at that meeting when I was up at the PUC that private property owners are responsible for removing dead trees on their property. That's the responsibility of the landowner, and not the town's responsibility.
I can't stress enough how National Grid, Randy Borders, their tree guy, Paul Stazak, they went above and beyond really for this town. Brian can attest to that. When former manager McGarry was here, that 72,000 that was put in restricted account for tree removal probably would be gone now if it wasn't for the progressive work that National Grid did for this town. Unfortunately, we were hit pretty hard with a lot of damage, bug damage, whether it be the beetles or the gypsy moths, as you all know. Just look in the woods when you drive down the road. So they have really helped us out as far as expenditure for tree removal. Just a little backstory. Public Works does own a bucket truck. Unfortunately, the guy that used to fly in the bucket has since retired. It was a year ago this month that he retired. The truck is a 1988, and I refuse to have it recertified due to safety concerns with that truck. So with that being said, every time we have a wind event now, I get calls at the office for, I hate to use the word widowmakers, but everybody knows what that is. Okay, so trees that are hanging over the right of way that are deemed hazardous. So I put a list together, and then I have to go out and seek quotes for the removal of those trees. So that's what I'm in the process of doing now, because we've had a lot of wind events. So that 1,500 will go quickly in the very near future. And I'm sure Brian and I will have discussions in some of the other monies that are available for the tree removal. It's an ongoing issue.
Okay, I got a question for the director. I'm sorry, I'm talking. Director, you fully manned? You have enough people? You short people?
We're short-staffed at the time.
By
this time.
1, 2, 3.
One at this time. It is advertised, and Brian and I will be doing interviews in the very near future.
Not to put you on the spot, spot, Dave, but in a town like the size of Hopkinton, what would be the normal size crew their public works or road department would have? A town like Gloucester or Hopkinton or, any of the.
We're on target with what we have. I mean, I would always like to have more help because our service requests, I have a folder in my office that's literally an inch plus thick of requests, whether it be from our town clerk for an odor in the town hall. So I'll use that as an example to a pothole. So our request for services has increased since I've been there, without exaggeration, probably tenfold. So the guys are always in motion on a daily basis. That's one of the things that they do enjoy is they're usually doing something different almost every day. But again, we're a complement of 12 total in the department. That's with the director, foreman, 2 custodians, a mechanic, and 7 maintenance operators. So to answer your question, Scott, yes, we are short-staffed momentarily or temporarily.
Yeah, I want to, particularly when we deal with these federal funds, I really want to see what we can do to help out the Public Works Department, which I think historically has took it on the chin through the years financial wise. When we've had budget pressures and things like that. So I look forward to that. How is the snow removal situation, be able to get contractors to do that?
We don't use contractors.
You don't use contractors at all, it's only the state then, right?
Correct. What I do is if you'll look at line item 4005, I'm sorry, 4020, part-time wages.
Mhm.
It's a $6,000 line item. Excuse me. So what that covers is part-time help, spare drivers, as I call them. I have a few individuals that I can call almost at a drop of a hat, and they're willing to come in. They use our equipment when it's running. So as Councilor Gary stated, the maintenance side of things, we used to like to tell you folks that, 20 years out of a truck, cut that in half. With the sophistication today, you're going to be lucky to get 10 years out of a truck. With the electronics and the rot factor, the salt eats everything away, and it does not like electronics.
Dave, what's the, on the new truck you get up there now? Plow truck, what's the warranty on that?
It's a 1-year manufacturers, and then the town historically does a extended warranty. So it's 5 years typically on the drivetrain. Which unfortunately our newest truck, which is a 2021 Freightliner, has been towed out of my shop twice. And we just put it in service in October. So even new trucks have their issues. And it does take a large portion of the budget for maintenance of the fleet. So, and the town manager and I are working on that, and we discussed it at length, so. The guys do the best they can.
And we
After
appreciate.
every 30+ hour event, and we've done 2 of them so far this year. The next day to 2 to 3 days is patch and putty and paint the fleet back together. So
The thing is, I know also on the slide item is landfill. What do you see the immediate concerns with the landfill? I know we've talked about, covering it and, issues with that as far as the legal issues and things of that nature. And,
This is a budget meeting.
but this is a budget meeting, but it says DPW landfill and there's a money component to landfill.
That's,
Yeah,
that's
the
a different
contract.
item. That's, that landfill is the cost we pay to Westerly, the budgeted line item.
Oh,
This is not, this is not.
This is
Okay,
related-
thank you.
Town Road.
Not
Thank you.
related to.
Thank you.
Yeah, but this is the new contract, right?
This is not a contract. This is,
Okay.
so I've been working with Chief Lacy, and I think between the turnover there, we haven't been able to really get together. I've reached out to him on a couple occasions, and we're trying to get on the same schedule to sit down and talk about that contract. His council proposed a really hefty increase for the year, to the tunes of like 45,000, up from 16,000. And I asked them to meet with me and provide me with some data as to how they came up with that number. And we haven't, again, connected on that. So I've put in a moderate increase here, but it's gonna take some convincing to get to that 22,000 number. We're looking at 45. With that being said, it's gonna be a one-time thing, one-time expense, because next year, after FY '23, they're gonna have the residents are gonna actually pay their own fee. It's gonna be a $50 charge per resident for Westerly, and they're gonna treat Hopkinton the same way.
So like a
It's gonna
sticker.
basically take it out of our budget and put it on the individuals that use it.
And how are they going to deal with the,
How will they deal with that?
They're gonna be treated the same as Westerly residents. So they're gonna pay the fee. If
So
you
the
wanna use,
residents are gonna pay the fee, not the town.
exactly,
government.
exactly. They're gonna take it off the town and
Hmm.
just like they're doing in Westerly.
So that would
So the
just be
residents-
like a pass, like to use the dump? Is that
Kinda like
what you're
Exactly.
Kind
Yep.
of like what Charlestown did.
Or
Exactly.
Richmond does,
Yeah,
or-
it's, I think it's pretty common throughout the
Pretty
state, so they're just converting from.
saying? Yeah.
You still have to buy bags.
I mean, it's getting so costly now
Oh, no,
to
for
operate
sure.
these things, so the towns are realizing that they don't wanna.
So after this
Yeah,
year, we
that-
don't anticipate this being an expense in our,
That is what I've been told.
Okay.
It's gonna come out of the budget.
Sure.
The next, next fiscal
Sure.
year. And it's gonna be a fee, a
It's gonna-
membership fee.
how is that going to work for trash haulers that are licensed in the town? Because obviously they're taking, most people use a trash hauler and it's going to still impact their landfill.
It's gonna have to go up.
Yeah.
If you're a private contractor, say like Mike's
Yeah.
Trash Removal in Hopkinton, I don't want to use their names.
I don't,
Mike's Trash Removal, you're gonna have to go up on your resident
Hmm.
unless you want to stuff your stuff in an orange bag and take it there and pay a $50 fee.
I mean, to be honest, I didn't prepare too much on the commercial. I mean, that doesn't affect the town. So I didn't really prepare data on how much the commercial haulers in our town are gonna get charged by Westerly. I could get that information for you.
I don't.
Well, I think
that's
it's going to
necessary.
impact, most people use a trash hauler and it's going to impact their
Absolutely. Sure.
local bills, obviously.
And it is in the proposed contract. There is language in there that governs that, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah, because most people use private trash haulers.
Sure.
It's a concern. I mean, it's probably just like everything else gonna go up, but I don't think it really hits home. It's a concern, but a little bit of a district concern maybe for
Yeah,
people.
it'll be on an agenda at some point, once, like I said, Chief Lacy and myself get together to.
Well, I just think it's relative, well, everything is relative, especially when fees are involved, whether you pay taxes or you pay for services directly.
And you're paying somebody, whether you're paying Wesley or you're paying somebody else to
Yeah.
bring your stuff to there. I mean, it's kind of really it's kind of a,
So Brian, this would be like not to just keep going on with this, but this would be like a one-time, like a 1-year sticker, say.
Mhm.
I'm just being,
For the residents?
Yeah.
Yes, it's gonna, yep, it's like Charlestown, like you said, it's gonna be, you go to the town hall, you pay your $50 and you get a pass for the year. That's my understanding. Again, I think it's still. being
Excellent.
Hashed out, but.
right, yeah.
Okay.
All right, are we good with Public Works?
Mhm.
I'm all set. Thank you, Dave.
Director, we appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. All right, so next up, we have troublemaker. Town clerk, which is page
Seven,
7 and 8.
if you
Seven,
look,
eight.
it's right on, if you look-
7, 8, 9.
if you look on page 2, all the way to left side, it'll tell you what pages everything.
Page Supreme,
is on.
page 2.
Just an
You
FYI.
didn't understand my, my email today? Love it.
All right, so for the clerk's office, same contractual proposed contract increases. They're part of the clerical and PTE. Lisa is not, but her increases mimic what the other employees get. So I think it's only fair to mention that when the town's budget gets rejected, generally, because of the union contracts, everybody still gets their pay increases. However, Lisa doesn't. So I don't think that's very fair. So this reflects the 2-year increase as well, but
Okay.
she also missed out on a year of increases. And that's 2 out of 3 years that's happened. So, and she'll be the last one to tell you that. So I figured I'd mention it.
So we're making up for it and it's in here? Is that
It's,
what-
yes.
Okay,
It's gonna,
perfect.
yep, it's gonna be 2% for 22 and then 2%, which was in the proposed budget last year. So with that being said, do you have any questions for Lisa on the town clerk's budget?
I know a lot of her revenues are decided by state law, like what she can charge for vital statistics and all that stuff. But I appreciate the support they give the council. They make the council look good a lot of times, I think, or are very helpful, and I thank them publicly for doing that.
I just wanted to review on the insurance 4110, the health last year was supposed to go up 6% and the dental to go up 3%. Is that the same numbers now?
No, actually, we got some good news from the trust this year. They're proposing, I was actually just gonna look for that. I've actually put in a 2% for health and 2% for dental, which they generally give me a range.
Mhm.
And I believe it was between 2 and 6% increase. And I've just based on history and experience, I always go on the lower side of that range because generally that's what comes in. So I put in a low figure
All right.
for those of 2% for health, 2% for dental.
And the co-share last time you said the town was 78% and the employee was 22. Is that still true?
Correct. That's driven by contractual agreements.
Oh, thank you.
Collective bargaining agreements. So that is unchanged.
Hang on.
And we didn't propose a change for that either.
Lisa.
And one more. Pensions. I wrote
Oh, I can address that. too.
something by the state and I put 2.98 cents, 2.98%.
Yes, it was 2.98% and it went down to 2.91%. So minor adjustment there, but in our favor. So you see a decrease in the town clerk's office by about $1,100.
And that is determined by the state?
Yes.
Determined by the state. Okay, thank you. Okay, that's all I had.
Lisa, you fully staffed?
Yes. Except for Board of Canvassers.
Okay.
That Board of Canvassers, as you know, we're down by 1. It's something on your next agenda at this point, and hopefully will be, I mean, it's not really staff, but it is something that we need to have done. We need to have more than 2 Board of Canvassers. It was very difficult during the pandemic because not everybody had the opportunity to have an inoculation. So we have a mature group of ladies who serve on the Board of Canvassers, and it was really a trying time for everybody. And we worked with the Secretary of State's Office, Elections Division, and the Rhode Island Board of Elections, and we had works around on how to get things processed and managed and certified, et cetera. So I don't want to continue that. I think we need to have a board member, and I look forward to the new person being appointed.
And do we need to, and, or you said it's on the next agenda, are we going to do any interviews or just?
I sent the
Vote on the
law
people.
out this morning to the solicitor and Steve because it's unique. The law is unique and it indicates that based on the list provided by the two political parties in towns, the council president or the mayor, in our case, the council president, makes a nomination from those lists of the individuals that were submitted. So it's different. I don't think it requires an interview. You can
Okay.
certainly schedule interviews. I don't think that would be a bad thing as well, but the law doesn't necessarily say that, but that's why I sent it to Steve Sipole as well, because I want to make sure I'm going on the right track. So,
Okay,
Excellent. Thank you, Lisa.
you're
thank
welcome.
you.
Would you like-
45, 46.
The next upcoming budget, we should get another mic. Just keep that in there. So any other questions for Lisa on the town clerk department?
Mhm.
Okay, how about probate? Changes there. Generally, we try to level fund everywhere we can, except for where there's contractual obligations. Board of canvassers for elections.
Are there any, are there any changes because of the redistricting or do we have?
We, last year, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Last year, we had an increase and we funded it in such a way so that the redistricting process that happened this year, because of the 2020 census and the state legislature just finished their work with that, it appears that there's no change to the congressional district. There's no change to the senatorial district. Both are the same. There could be a slight change to the representative district. I've compared the 2012 legislation to the 2020 legislation, and I'll be reaching out to Representative Kennedy, hopefully tomorrow, just to get an idea of who prepared the legislation and all the descriptions, because there is a slight difference and shift between two precincts, the Hope Valley Elementary School precinct and the
The Grange?
Grange, yep.
Mm.
So there is a slight, but I don't know if it's just a slight description. And I want to make sure that we're on the same page. There are some communities that have gone through huge changes and have big population shifts. We are very fortunate that it seems to be minor. So it may be a lesser cost, and I think we would have enough money in the budget to cover that. So I'm very, very pleased about that. So I don't believe we need to add any more
Okay.
to it. So. We'll be covering, every year we do the Terre budget referendum in April and the Hopkinton budget referendum in June. This year brings September, so yes, in September 2022, we'll have the primary and the general election in November. So we'll have those two elections plus those two budgetary issues. So that should cover.
I got a question.
Yes.
So we talked about, look, with the budgets, the budget votes coming up, we talked about different ways that we can reach out to residents. and
Yep.
give them information. One of those items.
Yep.
Cost to that.
Yes.
Is that something that maybe we should just
Budget.
think about putting in the budget every year?
If you want to go that route. The only question I would have is how you word it. You want to say in there that, because we've had issues a couple of years ago where Terre shifted their budget goal. You anticipated to have it this date and they changed it.
Mhm.
So you don't want to have
Yeah.
definitive date in there sometimes. I think that you can do certain wording that it is on or about the first or second Tuesday in April. So I think it's just wording. and then mirror what the town charter says for Hopkinton's budget.
Mhm.
So, I
Is
mean,
it-
that is an option. I think you would probably want to test the waters first. I would hate to see money thrown away and then have no
Yeah.
positive results. That's my only concern.
Is it crazy for the town to buy yard signs? To-
We have signage.
You know, that we could,
Signage has been bought and
Okay.
for the Terre budget referendum and the Hopkinton
Okay.
budget referendum. What we do, in addition to posting it on the website, it's already on the website, thank you, Jeff. We also put it in the Westerly Sun. We post it in 5 to 9 locations around town, so it's physically posted. And then the day of the budget vote, at certain intersections, we post signs.
Right.
You know, vote today.
Yep.
I don't know how to make,
well, that's.
I mean, maybe Facebook is another option, but you can't make.
No, you can't. And it's historically
It's
been that way, so
disappointing.
it is.
So you throw a
I
party, you
think-
want people to come.
Yeah,
I mean, it's expensive, it's a long day.
You
and
walk out of here,
it's Easy.
you walk out of here at
Yes or no?
9:30 like I have sometimes, you're number 23, just
Yeah.
beating your
Yeah.
head against
That's
the truck.
true,
Really
yeah.
disappointing.
But I think we're all, we're all on the right track. Council Marvel's had a fantastic idea. I think that's a great idea, kind of what we talked about with the lettering your house. We talked about that last council session, but that'd be great. But true, what happens all of a sudden we say, hey, we're gonna do it on the 5th. Oh, COVID or something, then everything we've mailed out, we put to it gets
Yeah.
thrown in the trash.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. To me, I think,
Yard signs, I go out and put them out all day long.
yeah, but I think to me, one of the biggest things, one of the biggest benefits that we could give to our residents is
Knowledge.
an education on what this is all about and what are the impacts of whether you vote for the, town budget or if you vote it down.
Right.
What happens? Like, I don't know how many people realize like what a hit DPW takes when when the budget is rejected. Because, we're still gonna pay more for salaries, we're still gonna pay more for
Fuel.
Terre. So somebody's gotta give up money and it ends up, like we said, being DPW and.
you gotta pay now or pay later.
Yeah.
I mean, for the
Yeah,
most
No,
part.
it's beyond that because the town council is supposed to be political leaders. And they should be writing letters to the paper explaining their views. They should articulate why they feel the way they do. I write letters all the time. Very rarely does somebody on this council write a letter. I know Sharon does occasionally, but you got to put the facts out there. Some people agree with you. Some people will think you're foolish or whatever their opinion is. But you put your views out there and you substantiate why you feel the way you do. That's about political leadership. There's a political dimension to government and there's a professional element to government, and the council represents the political element. And we are short on doing that, but other town council, the school committee people are guilty of the same thing.
And Scott, there is also a taxpayer kind of responsibility. I mean, first and foremost, that should be the ultimate responsibility is the taxpayer.
Yeah.
I put more onus on the taxpayer to speak up. To be honest with you, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with it. So I'm gonna, respectfully disagree with your comment about writing stuff in the paper and that's gonna get everybody to vote. That's
People
just-
don't know all the facts because
Well, I
people
did-
have
All right, we're kind
a
of
busy life.
we're getting off the subject. Okay, so back to the signs. When's the last times what do these signs look like? Does it say,
They say vote today and
Town
there's
budget.
different signs at the bottom that you can put Terre budget or Hopkinton budget. And it's placed. Ashway Fire Station, Hope Valley Fire Station, Langworthy Library, the Library in Ashway, Crandall House, the intersections of Main. Yeah.
And it so happens to be the same time every single
in
year.
Pete's?
We put 'em up. we put 'em
No,
up every
I'm just
day.
saying, I mean, everybody knows
That is on the day of.
that's when we
Day
vote on the
of.
budget.
Yeah, that's on
Right.
the day.
Because it says vote today.
Right.
Right, sure.
Public Works puts them out the morning of.
Yeah.
and
We also have police traffic signs that you can use.
Yeah, for sure.
We
That's
didn't-
right.
We didn't have
Yeah,
that
That's
before.
Yeah,
And I
that's a
think
good idea.
The chief has actually borrowed them from neighboring towns, so maybe a day or two before.
That's a good idea.
So Bob, did your question get answered?
Yes, yes, thank you.
All set? Yeah. You done with me?
As long, I mean, if you're done with us, you're done with us.
Okay, next up, town council.
Read 546.
Page,
45, 46. Sure.
I would like to just, I do think that as a. I do think that a
What's
social
that?
media presence is not that I said it. Okay, I do think that Hopkinton does need a little bit more of Facebook presence. Unfortunately, Facebook is. And I will tell you that I happen to. One website, very good. That get me to communicate with someone and figure out what's going on. I have to say it. I have to say, we need more of a social media. Not for people to squawk.
thank,
I want to put that on counselors. It's just as much my responsibility to say, hey, friends, go out and vote. Budget is up for vote.
I think
We could stand to have a little bit more, and charity in general, stand to have schools, have more of a publicity presence.
Well, everybody, I agree. Facebook is the beast right now, whether, well, whatever the case may be. It's like EMA sends out a good, when we have an upcoming storm, I usually put that on a community post. I know some other people put stuff on there too. So it's all of us pretty much put it out. But yeah, I think over this last term, Council Marvel has pushed the envelope. If you look at the thing now on the town website, now we have something that nobody ever knew before existed with the senior service. So that's good. And I think Jeff is still working on the Facebook aspect of it. But the biggest part I think a lot of people get from is not necessarily you, from all of us, is the Hopkinton community page. 'Cause I know I post stuff on there. I know Bob Marble posts stuff on there. I know Sharon does.
And I will say too,
I don't think you're on
Bob's
Facebook.
posted probably two or three things in the last probably week, and it has maybe gotten one like. And, but yet, if there's an argument to be had, there's plenty of people to chime in.
Bunch of
I mean, nobody
Yeah.
even wants to dislike Bob's post, but I mean, it's out there. Bob periodically does it. That's just kind of an observation. You know, you kind of see it and it's like, unless I can argue about it, kind of stay out of it. I mean, it's
I also,
a crappy situation. It really is. I mean, but
It was
it's the
something,
truth.
it was something it was fun when it first came out. Now it's destroyed everybody.
And I think I might have been the only person that liked it. And the only reason why I didn't share it is because it's on a community page and you can't share it on a community page. Which would be nice too, because it is a private page, Hopkinton. You can't share things from it. So it's, you know, when that information is centered on that Hopkinton page and nobody can actually share that unless they're smart enough, or not say smart enough, or savvy enough to be able to copy and paste it, screenshot it, do whatever. I mean, there's
Like the pony that was loose on Spring Street this morning at 5:30.
right. Oh yeah, that's 4,000 posts on the
Well, that poor
puppy.
pony.
Excellent, thank you. So maybe we should put Lost Puppy. By the way, there's a town budget. That would probably,
You have to come to the town to get the puppy.
I mean,
right?
it's sad but true.
And I,
Right.
I just want to add too, that we do have an official Facebook presence, the town does. It's been dormant for years and years and years, and Jeff has been good about, you know, posting informational items like that. So, you know, people who like that, you know, presence or attach to that presence, you will get a notification. Of course, you know, like we've said with Facebook, you know, you're constantly getting bombarded with new notifications. 80% of them are ads. So it's hard to catch them all sometimes.
Keep trying. I mean, that's at the end of the day, I mean, that's kind
But
of,
that's, you know, that's why we want to get new ideas from residents about how to better communicate with people. You know, how do we do this? So.
It's better to try something than just sit there and say,
Yeah.
well, you know, and that's credit to Council Marvel, he's done a fantastic job. And, Jeff came in with a new fresh set of eyes. So we're trying to move everything forward. As you can hear, so we're trying to figure out where we can put new signs, whether it has a balloon waving like this in the air and it catch your attention, or like Steve says, lost puppy on Ashway Road. Oh yeah, by the way, the Terre budget says that'll get attention.
We'll have the new town website,
Yeah.
Just puppies all the
we
time.
start working on that next month or so. So that'll
Lost
also
Rooster in
help,
Hope Valley.
that'll tie into our Facebook presence.
Yeah.
So we'll get some good things coming.
Good.
So, so we move on to the town council
We can,
budget. Any questions on the town council budget?
Yeah, I know Sharon's mentioned in the past, so I'm probably going to steal a thunder, but I do believe the town council should have an increase, which isn't a smart thing for a politician, especially one that plans to run this year. But the fact of the matter is, I've been running every 2 years since 1992, and I've won and lost elections. But the thing is, not in the last election, but the preceding election, we had 5 candidates for 5 seats. And being on town council, you can put up with a lot of aggravation, a lot of hours. And usually, unless there's a hot issue, like solar was a hot issue in the last election. But a lot of times it's tough to get people unless they're really into politics or in the town and they want to do it. It usually has to be a controversial issue to motivate people to run. So I think it's important to make some increase on the town council line item. I think it's probably politically advantageous not to support it, but I think it's important because one of these days, and it happened in Richmond at least once, maybe even more than once, that they didn't have 5 candidates on the ballot for the town council, so people actually got elected as write-ins. And when you have a write-in situation, you never know who's going to get elected. So I submit the possibility, not that it would happen, that we could have a time in Hopkinton where we could have not enough candidates running for town council. And it's important to recognize that possibility. Thank you.
All right, I'll take it. Lisa, I know we had talked about this. I know we talked about this and you weren't 100% sure. You had to go back into your little black book there. When was the last time the town council got a raise?
I can tell you, it was 2005. Okay? And then 2005, it went from 2004, it was 11,917. And it went to 12,275. And that was a $358. That's for in total. Okay, $358 increase. And then in 2012, it went down $100. So we have.
and let's just, I mean, for the record, I mean,
12,175. Okay, so I will step out on the limb and think we need a raise. I'm gonna say.
How do we?
and for the record, this is for the next council. That's all.
Yeah. that's what I'm
Correct.
saying for the next
Mhm.
council.
Right. This isn't for us
No, it
currently.
isn't.
This is
Next
for
council.
whoever runs next time and whoever.
I
It's
would,
elected.
I would ask, does anybody have an idea of, do you want me to find comparables from other municipalities?
I think
Or does
what,
anyone have a number they want to propose?
Well, last time I
Sorry,
wanted to
number.
propose $5,000 total. That's $1,000 per counselor. I mean.
Increase.
Increase. Yeah, I know, but we're getting a little over $2,000 for the whole year at the moment. And so, and like I said, it really haven't had an increase since 2000.
I was thinking along the lines for a counselor that's not the president, vice president, 3,000, which isn't really a lot of money with the responsibility and the hours you put in, because it's still much less than the minimum wage.
Brian, I got a
Same.
question. How would we pay for this? Lisa, would we have to vote on this prior to us departing the council?
Yes.
It would get approved in the budget
Correct.
process. Yeah. So
Right.
we would-
Okay.
Right.
if
This,
you wanted to vote on it now, I could, typically, these budget changes don't need to be voted on,
Yeah.
but this particular,
Consensus,
Yeah.
would add to it, you all agree.
Yeah.
Don't have any
So
Be by consensus,
Then we'll make
put it
it,
in there, and then at some point, when you get down to it, you have the financial town assembly in May, then you would, vote.
For the total budget.
On the budget. to present.
so we could put it
So at
forward right
some
now.
point, yes, we'll vote.
You want to vote it now?
And
I mean, we can do however we want. I mean, you want to vote on consensus, put it in there. All it comes down to is Brian putting it in.
I can do it.
I mean,
right
because
now.
we can, at any point, we can and go back to this, but
well, I think,
if we want to handle it now, we can handle it now.
Might as well
So-
do it and get it out of the way.
I think a council person who's not the vice president or president should get at least 3,000. And the president and vice president should get more, whatever you think the percentage should be.
I'm gonna leave that up to you people. That's fine. I mean,
Well, I still
So
think
for-
1,000 apiece, and that would be more than 3,000. Well,
Yeah,
it would be
I,
more than 3,000, it'd be 3,225 for somebody who isn't an officer.
so you're saying $1,000 more for
Mhm.
general counsel?
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm in
Why don't we
favor of
just plug it in because we're still going to review this
yep.
and I know they get a lot more, I'm sure, in West.
So the vice president would get 3,500 and the president would get 4,000.
Yep.
That's like
The
that.
other members would get 3,225.
Correct.
But like I said, that the dilemma possibly, considering the fact that we never had the dilemma Richmond had, not getting enough candidates, I think in a couple of elections, but that could happen in Hopkinton eventually. If we have a hot issue, a lot of people will come out of the woodwork. But we had first time in modern history in this town, election before that, when we only had 5 council candidates, and that is, and you know what a political junk I am. I know of no other time in modern history that's happened.
in this town,
Not since before World War II, maybe even earlier than that. If ever.
Okay.
We agreeable or?
so I'm just gonna move down here to town contingency. Is 4,000 usually the, historical number? And the only reason why I say that is because there's, not that I'm looking to spend any money, but there's times when I think the town council should have some sort of leeway to be able to do something out of the ordinary, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
But
I
it should be by vote.
I
of
mean,
the
I see
total
some towns
council.
that aren't even like, right,
Something like
right,
that.
right,
Okay.
right.
I believe in a town council contingency. The,
I mean, I think $4,000 is like. a
it
joke.
really should be,
I mean, we may never use it, but $4,000 is a joke.
well, it probably should be in, just throwing this number out, 10,000, because you never know if there could be a generator or some type of special work you need. Well, you can't do much with $4,000. And then I know in the past, and that's probably too high, I'm just throwing that out, that we can modify all these amounts. I don't know what other towns have in that contingency, but I know a lot of times, for example, if we got flowers, somebody died, or there was some type of thing, you would use a contingency fund, but you can't do much with 4,000 if you have some type of thing comes up and it's not in the budget. You could easily blow $4,000.
Right, because I just think it gives the town council leeway to help out any other department. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that could,
Why don't we plug
it
in
needs
10,
it if that's,
why don't we plug in 10,000 and we can always change that?
because just because the way our budget works, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like everything has to be, we're approving the budget. You're not robbing Peter to pay Paul in this budget. You know what I mean? But the contingency line kind of gives that flexibility.
Yeah, because the,
Does that, am I right with that or?
Well, generally, we have restricted accounts.
Okay,
set up for
okay,
those
all right,
type of
all right. Well, then-
emergencies. And if
then
we ever
that's-
needed to run a deficit, we could, and
Perfect.
it would come out of fund balance.
Okay.
This line item is more specifically for the council. Say, Councilor Marvel said, oh, let's do this mailer. It's
Sure.
unbudgeted. It's a recommendation that the council, in the past, we increased this from 2,000,
Okay,
probably in FY 19, if I had to guess. We increased it so that there could be iPads purchased for the council.
chairs, I
And
remember.
then they
one time.
decided not to do that. But in the in the past, what I've seen it be used for is when a resident would come in and the council would have some situation where they wanted to help the resident out, whether it
Right.
was waiving a fee,
Sure.
some sort of nonprofit fee or whatever it may be. It's something that they would kind of do as a courtesy to a resident. They'd have that flexibility
Okay.
with that contingency.
Well, knowing the history of that too, I mean, so I mean, I still think 4,000 is a little low, but I mean, it's nice to know that there's obviously.
Yeah, if it was
said,
like a generator situation or a big ticket item,
Sure.
first of all, we would apply it to the line item where it belonged, whether, whatever that respective line item
Yep.
was, and we would just overrun it.
Okay.
And it would create a deficit in that line item. But I deal with that stuff daily.
Sure.
You know, in the finance office, you know, that we're constantly having to deal with that. On,
Right.
you know, emergencies that come up that aren't budgeted, and we find ways to do it,
Okay.
whether it's a restricted account or offsetting it with another line item. So if we overrun, say, townwide maintenance and repair buildings, we'll try to underrun somewhere else to
I got you.
offset that.
Okay. Thank you. So, I
I
mean,
don't want to go for 10.
Okay, put 5 in.
75.
yeah,
I'll go for
Because we can,
75.
I want to check what Richmond and Charleston do for their contingency and.
Charlestown's got like 50 grand in their contingency, but that's Charleston.
But you know,
I already
I'm
looked,
just
that's-
throwing that out
already looked at
because
both
it's tough
sides.
to sit here and you don't know the answers to these things.
Well, I like 5.
All right,
Yeah,
five.
I mean, I think bumping it up another 1,000 is fine. I mean, again, because if, you know, say we do get yard sale, I mean, I just
Sure.
think
Sure.
that flexibility of doing that type of stuff.
Thoughts on bumping up town council's stipend?
Oh, we already agreed.
Oh, great, good. All right. Excellent.
I'll just say I'm not comfortable with that, although it looks like, it seems like everyone else is agreeing, but I mean, we're asking all the other departments to level fund.
Right.
And I'm just not, to me personally, I'm not comfortable with saying, I want everyone else to level fund, but give me an extra grand. I don't think, I mean, for me, it's.
Yeah,
it's
I know
not-
for the
it's
most
not the
part-
reason I ran,
Right.
and it's not something that would make or break whether I would be run or whatever.
I share
Yeah.
Bob's thoughts for the most part, but I kind of feel the consensus here that it was, so
Mhm.
I'm not gonna, whatever.
So
but-
the problem is that people have to realize that somebody like me, I live for politics and government. It's just what my passion is and my interest is. But it can be a lot of aggravation and the town council is so important because only the town council can speak for the town.
Mhm.
We're the only ones that can make appointments to boards and commissions. We're the only ones that can approve the town budget before it's submitted to the voters. We're the only ones that can enact zoning ordinances, real serious stuff. And you're asking people to really have serious responsibility for myself, 2,225. And I don't think it's that much to ask, you know, and I'd defend that. And it might hurt me politically, but you got to think of this town. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we did have an election. We only had 5 candidates. The election before the last one. It's also a fact the town of Richmond, I think a couple of times didn't have enough candidates in that town to on the ballot. So it's a very serious thing that we sustain a town council as an institution, regardless of the personality.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I know where you're coming from. I just think that, you know, in our current fiscal environment, we should be, you know, a little more generous to the other departments and others than ourselves.
Everybody
I
has
concur on what you're saying, but I think after this, with the ARP money and probably what's coming up with the estate,
Mhm.
make everybody flow up. I hope we can all
Yeah.
agree on that. But I get you saying, I didn't run for the money either.
Of course
Yeah.
not.
You know, it's to take care of the people, kind of like what Scott said.
Well, for many years, it was in the state constitution to only give, I think it was legislators $5 a day, and 8 cents a mile or something like, and it was in the state constitution for about 100 years until finally it was changed. And I think it was, maybe it was 5, maybe it was 10. I think it might have been 10, but whatever it was was a minuscule amount. Being on a town council is a serious responsibility. And there should be some, at least credible stipend. I don't think $3,000 a year is for somebody that has, there's 5 people who have the responsibility of conducting the affairs of this town. And the only ones that can speak for the town clerk can't speak for the town. She's not a member of the town. The town council's the game.
Yep.
Just like the school committee. I'm not a fan of the Charter School Committee. They, by law, are responsible for running the schools. That's a fact.
Want to go to the next one?
Yeah.
Page 5.
Page 5. So up next, Brian, we'll move to general government.
General government, yep. So health is a pass-through. That's our Cobra
Mhm.
employees, previous
Mhm.
employees. The contract services, we had some increases there. Our disposal contract, Terminex contract, and our EAP contracts all went up. So that, I have a breakdown of that as well. The electric and heating, just to let you know, while that's being brought up, or the electric and fuel, I had a decrease townwide in electric of 500 based on previous usage and our current contract rate. But you'll see that it's up in some departments and down in others. Same with heat. So heat was a net 0 impact, but it was increased by as much as $5,400 in some departments and decreased by 5,000 in another department. But in total aggregate, it's a net 0 impact.
Where did, can I ask, are you, where's
Are
the
there any
net 0?
contracts on that guy?
I'm sorry, where are you on the net 0 thing?
I was just talking in general about the electric and fuel line items because
Okay.
here in several budget in departments, several departments. So the impact you'll see from one department to the next, there may be an increase or decrease, but in total, there was a decrease in electric and a net 0 impact on heating.
Although it says 10.4 versus 5
Right,
from last
because
year. Oh,
over,
because it's 2 years worth?
No,
Oh.
because I decreased some and increased others. So I reallocated the total amount that was spent townwide. So you're seeing an increase in this department, but you'll see a decrease in another department. So in
Okay,
total,
okay.
amongst other departments, there was a net 0 impact. Just thought I'd bring that up so that you would know that going forward.
Okay, I got it now.
Any questions?
Mm,
Any questions on revenue? That the impact fee came out of the budget because that was a one-time use. It actually should have been out last year, but the budget was rejected. So we had an extra 130,000 in revenue.
I have a question about the insurance and property and casualty insurance.
Sure.
That's up by, or maybe, it is up versus,
Yep, it's up. That's again, that is a 2-year increase.
okay.
And those rates come directly from the trust, and I can tell you what our increase was.
That's okay.
That is a high percentage increase, and it was because our total liability increased 2 years ago, not last year, and increased to 5 million from $1 million. So that was a big part of the increase there.
From 2 to 5 million?
It went, yep, our total liability coverage went from $1 million to 5 million. And we had to do that when we purchased the town streetlights. In
Okay.
order to own our own streetlights, we had to have a $5 million policy.
Okay.
And then we had an increase. They're projecting a 10% increase this year as well. And that is attributed to cybersecurity, which is it's a big issue.
They
So
use
they've,
that.
I've gotten a ton of emails from them and
Yeah.
our insurance carrier is very concerned about it. Not just with us, obviously, but statewide, they're increasing everybody's liability because it's a concern. The rest of that stuff all comes from the governor's budget for the most part. It's all state aid. And then obviously there was a decrease in interest on investments because our savings accounts getting like minimal interest. at this point.
Like watching the paint dry.
Yeah, it should have been decreased again last year, but weren't able to. Any questions?
I don't have any
Excellent.
questions. Thank you,
I think
Brian.
you're okay.
So the CIP, the only thing I don't think we have anything tonight, and what I do is I usually bring it up when the department heads here, the CIP budget. It's
Yep.
a separate document, it's a separate tab in your binder.
Number 2,
Yep.
tab 2.
The only thing that we have in there right now is the Public Works previous year. So we had 3-year leases on 2 pieces of equipment. So we have the 3rd year of 1 piece of equipment and then the 2nd year lease payment. But there's no new equipment being purchased for Public Works through the CIP. Again, we kind of already talked about how we were going to handle that going forward. The police are getting a new cruiser. We have the full reval, and then we needed additional funds. After looking into the town website, there was actually an increase to that expense from what we originally thought it was going to be for the installation of it. But we're also getting a lot more bells and whistles than we originally thought that come with the package. So it's a good thing. We're going to get a lot more out of our website, but
Good.
the installation cost is slightly higher than we anticipated. So there's some additional funds in there for that. And again, we can talk about that when IT department is discussed tomorrow night.
Will there be any increase towards the expansion of the town hall?
That's not going to be that was something that we were going to try to address again with the ARPA funds. or I
Okay,
was gonna
good.
propose.
Good, thank you.
I mean, I think that should be, there's 2 big projects, but again, I don't know if we want to really go into that. It's not on the agenda.
No, that's fine.
What's that?
Just
The expansion of the
Right.
town hall.
Right. Yeah, we don't talk about the expansion. We talk about the money that we have in the bank account. It's like 1.6 million that's allocated towards
Yep.
it.
That's gonna be
So what was the
1
goal to get
Well,
to that?
yeah, I mean, a 2x4 is twice as
it
much.
was.
You can grab some pallets over there.
What did you say?
He asked what the amount was that was,
To pull the trigger.
yeah, and it was roughly 2 million. It was at 2.1.
And we have
But
1.9.
Again, those numbers
6.
probably need to be
1.6.
They're doubled. They need to be doubled.
I
Again.
hope not, but yeah, they're definitely gonna be higher with the inflation. I mean, the
They need
tough
to be
thing is you
doubled.
can't get anything. So these projects take forever. We're seeing it with the playground, Crandall Field. So we've been pushing to get that done spring. And the 2 main vendors, Yardworks, and forget the designer of the actual playground. They're having a tough time getting.
I'll tell you,
materials.
it's.
So it's getting pushed back and we're trying to get it done for late spring now. But, we've been waiting on stuff for months now. Thinking in the fall, like, oh, we'll definitely have it ready for next spring. So we had already, had the funding, we had the vendors selected, RFPs were awarded. So we thought we were in good shape for people to get work done in the fall, finish up, plant some grass in the spring, and here we are just getting pushed back. It's just supply
It's
chains,
everywhere.
like everything.
The way of the
Yeah.
world right now.
Look at cat food. You can't even get cat food in the store.
So, any other questions?
That's it.
I think that's it. I don't have any questions on that because we're gonna touch on the CIPs as we come across the departments and stuff.
Yeah.
And then warrant items, the same kind of idea. that's just kind of the warrant items, other but departments, that's just kind of, if we didn't touch on anything, we can touch on it.
It's kind of like an all-inclusive line
Yeah, sure.
item, so that if we talk about it, we're not making any sort of.
Yep. Leeway, yes.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa, department heads, whoever came.
All right.
Thanks to,
Did you say your name was
I got a
Sarah?
mental block.
Sarah,
Sarah Steverman. I apologize for that.
welcome.
So we're gonna close the
You're welcome
workshop.
to try out for the communications.
I'm glad she reads
Mr.
my,
Kamen,
I'm
did-
glad
did you
she
come for an
reads my
application?
social media post.
Yeah, we'll take it right now.
This'll be short term. It'll be short term, so won't take all your time.
I want to say thank you. I think it's such a thank you job. I struggled for you.
I did hear a pretty good idea the other day, though.
I would say, give yourselves a raise. This job is thank you.
To leave?
Yeah.
Trying to